For decades, the story we've been told about money has been pretty simple. Just let it flow freely across the globe and everybody wins. But then, a huge wave of financial crises kind of made us all step back and question that story. Today, we're going to dig into some new research that takes a much sharper look at this whole debate.
So let's get right into it. Is this free flow of international money the engine for global growth we were all promised? Or does it actually create a really fragile system, one that's just waiting to collapse? That's the big question we're going to tackle using the findings from a really detailed economic study.
All right, so first, let's go back to the original sales pitch. Why did economists think this was such a slam dunk idea to begin with? For a long time, the promise was seen as almost a fundamental law of economics.
This quote from the famous economist Maurice Obstfeld just nails that classic viewpoint, doesn't it? The idea was so simple and so powerful. If you have an open global financial system, it's just bound to be more competitive, more transparent, and way more efficient than a closed one.
The whole theory really boiled down to this. You've got all this money in developed countries, right? And it's looking for higher returns. So it's naturally going to flow into developing countries that are hungry for that capital. That money would then build factories, spark innovation, create jobs, you name it, and at the same time, investors everywhere could spread their risk across the whole planet, making everyone's savings a lot safer. It was supposed to be the perfect win-win.
But then, reality hit hard. During the peak of globalization, the world saw a record-shattering number of financial crises. We're talking somewhere between 80 and 100 of them. This massive contradiction, this gap between the promise and what was actually happening, forced economists to ask a tough question. What are we getting wrong here?
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we have to be super clear about what we're actually measuring. The problem might be in how we even define a good or efficient financial system. It's not just about how much money is zipping around the globe. It's about what that money actually does.
So to figure this all out, the researchers basically created a scorecard, a report card for what a good financial system is supposed to do. And it's not just one thing. It's 5 key jobs, everything from providing good info for investors to managing risk. And as you're about to see, one of these jobs is going to be super important to our story.
Let's zero in on that one function, because it is absolutely critical here: corporate control, or what's often called governance. This is basically all about accountability. When you give a company your money as an investor, is there a system that makes sure the managers use it wisely and not, just line their own pockets? A system that does this well is a hallmark of a healthy economy.
Now, the study we're looking at realized that to crack this case, the old tools just weren't going to cut it. To really see what globalization was doing, the researchers had to come up with a much sharper, more sophisticated way to measure both globalization itself and the health of a financial system.
And this is so important. Instead of just relying on the traditional, kind of blunt measurements, this research used brand new indicators, things designed to capture what's really happening on the ground. And that gives their findings a whole lot more credibility.
So here's how they did it. On the left, you see the old way of measuring things, just looking at a country's official laws, the rules on the books. But this study went way deeper. It measured the reality on the ground, what was actually happening with money and interest rates. And they did the same thing for efficiency, swapping out those simple size metrics for sharper tools that actually graded the system on those 5 core functions we just talked about.
So after crunching all this new, detailed data, what did they find? Well, the answer wasn't a simple, it's good, or it's bad. It was way more complicated. It revealed this fundamental trade-off right at the very heart of financial globalization.
The results really show that financial globalization is a true double-edged sword. On the one hand, it did seem to improve how companies were being managed and helped get savings into the system, but on the other hand, it led to more powerful, concentrated banks and actually made economies less stable, not more.
Okay, so let's start with the good news. The study backs up the theory that when foreign investors and banks show up, they really do shake things up. They come in, they challenge the cozy little local arrangements, and they demand better corporate governance. This outside pressure forces companies to get more professional and helps channel a country's savings into more productive investments.
But, and this is a huge but, the data also turned up a really surprising downside. This number here, it's pulled right from the study's statistical model. It shows a direct negative link between foreign money coming in and a country's ability to mobilize its own local savings. So in simple terms, it suggests that instead of adding to the pot, foreign money sometimes just replaced local money.
And that is definitely not what the original promise predicted.
And this leads us to the broader downside. The research found that instead of sparking more competition, foreign capital often ended up working with powerful local banks, which just created bigger monopolies. And, crucially, being open financially was linked to something economists call higher consumption volatility. Basically, it made economies more prone to these wild booms and really painful busts, making things riskier for everyday people.
So what's the big takeaway here? What do we do with all this? Well, these findings have some really direct and powerful lessons for how governments should be managing their economies in this globalized world. The study's conclusions give us a pretty clear playbook. The message isn't shut the doors to global money. Not at all. It's be smarter. Yeah, embrace openness, but have strong regulations in place to stop monopolies from forming. You have to actively manage the new risks that pop up because, trust me, the market isn't going to do it for you. And finally, you have to aim for real, deep integration, not just throwing open the floodgates and hoping for the best.
Ultimately, what this all shows us is that financial globalization isn't some magic bullet. It's an incredibly powerful and complicated tool. And sure, it can be used to build a more prosperous world, but if it's handled carelessly, it can also cause a spectacular amount of damage. The real challenge for all of us, really, is learning how to use this tool with the wisdom and the care it demands.